What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Ryan Pineda Show, where we talk all things money, real estate, entrepreneurship. And today we are talking about real estate, and specifically, how do you determine whether you're gonna flip a home or keep it as a rental? Stay tuned to find out. First off, let me say I get a lot of my video ideas from both TikTok and Instagram, so if you don't follow me on there, make sure you go and give me a follow right now because I've got daily content that you guys are gonna love. I actually see this question a lot in my comments on my TikToks. They say, how do you choose whether to flip or to rent? That's a great question because most people don't even consider it. Most real estate investors you talk to have one exit strategy. They're either buy and hold and they keep everything as a rental, or either they're flippers and they only flip everything, or they're a wholesaler and they only wholesale everything. But to me, that is the wrong way to run your business. In my business, we do over 100+ deals a year, and it combines all three of those. We keep rentals, we flip, we wholesale, we do it all. And if you want to throw listings into that, that is the fourth category we use as well for all the deals where the sellers don't want to take a discount and they want market value, so we just go send them off to the listing team. But with the hybrid model that we run, it allows us to maximize every single deal for whatever is best for the deal. For us as real estate investors, we're not really looking to list homes. We want to buy homes at a discount. But if a seller does not want to give a discount, we might as well at least make something on it, so we refer out those listings. For this video, I'm not going to talk about listings. I'm going to keep it to the investing side, which is rentals, flips, and wholesales. So anytime my team locks up a deal, I get an email that says street address and new deal. In that email, it will tell me the purchase price, it'll tell me the estimated rehab cost, it'll tell me my ARV. For those of you who don't know, is the after repair value, what we think we're going to sell it for once we fix it up. And with that information, I can determine what the exit strategy is going to be. We can run it through our deal calculator, which you can get at my online course. You can get that at the link below, and that'll tell me exactly what I think my flip profit is gonna be. Let's just say in this example, we run it through and it says that the flip profit is $30,000. The next thing we're gonna do is see how much we can wholesale it for. So anytime we get a deal in-house, meaning from our own marketing channels or even the MLS, we will then blast it out to our buyers list. Now, this doesn't mean that we have to wholesale it since we blasted it out. It just gives us an idea of what people are willing to pay for it and what a potential wholesale fee could be. Now, let's just say we blast it out and all of a sudden someone is willing to pay us $20,000 as an assignment fee. Now, when I look at that, I say, well, I can make $20,000 right now with no risk, cash in my pocket, or I can go through the headache of flipping it and in 4 to 5 months, I'll make $30,000. Maybe, because we all know flips don't always go as planned. In that scenario, I would much rather take the wholesale fee than go ahead and flip it. And I actually developed a rule for this, and I just call it the 2-to-1 rule. If the flip does not make at least 2 times the wholesale fee, then we are going to wholesale it. So in the scenario I just gave you, the wholesale fee would have been 20 grand, the flip would have been 30 grand. The flip is therefore 1.5 times the wholesale fee. So it makes more sense to wholesale it. Now, let's just say in the same scenario, the flip was going to be $50,000 and the wholesale fee is $20,000. For us, that means the flip is now 2.5 times the wholesale fee. In that scenario, we are going to buy it, we are going to flip it. It's worth it for us. And that's just something we use internally with where our business currently is at. You don't have to do that because you might need that $20,000 right now to keep your business going. For us, we don't. We can wait and go make the extra 30 grand. But when the wholesale fee is so close to the flip profit, it just doesn't make sense to take the risk to flip it and to wait to get paid. We would much rather just take the certain money. And you might be asking yourself, why would the wholesale fee be so close to the flip amount? That doesn't make any sense. But once again, you don't know the other person's exit strategy. They may not be trying to flip it. They may want to live in it. They may want to rent it out. You just don't know what somebody's exit strategy could be. So don't think that they're just buying a bad deal with no meat on the bone. They just might see the deal differently than you. They could have different costs than you. Maybe they're buying it all cash, whereas you were using financing that you had to pay for. Maybe they're fixing the home themselves, and so their labor is way less than your labor. Or lastly, maybe they just see the deal completely different from you. Maybe you think you're gonna sell it for $300,000 and they think they're gonna sell it for $350,000. Everyone has a different opinion on every single deal. I learned to stop criticizing how people analyze deals a long time ago. I remember I'd be bidding against other people for the same property and they would pay way more than me, and I'd be like, that person is so stupid, what are they thinking? And over time I realized they're not stupid. Well, I take that back. Some of them are pretty stupid, and some of them probably lost a lot of money overpaying. But some of them were right. They saw the ARV differently and made money. Or they kept it as a rental and it didn't matter. Or like I said, they bought it cash or did their own construction and it still made sense for them. So never judge what somebody is willing to pay for a property because you don't know how they see it. Now, back to the basics. As I said, as long as the flip makes at least 2 to 1 from the wholesale fee, we'll flip it. If it's less than 2 to 1, we will wholesale it. That's pretty much how we determine whether to flip or wholesale. But we still have this third strategy, which is the rental strategy. Now, with rentals, it is going to be very market dependent on whether this is even a strategy or not. I will tell you, in Vegas, where I'm at, rental is not even ever on my mind. And the reason for that is we just don't have good cap rates. We have very bad cash flow. The decision that I usually face is, do I want to make 25 grand on a flip, or do I want to make negative 200 bucks a month if I keep it as a rental? Well, obviously I'm not going to keep it as a rental. That makes absolutely no sense, right? And so almost always we don't even need to run it through the rental filter in Las Vegas. And it's that same way in many other major metros. I know in California, the properties are so expensive, it's almost impossible to get cash flow, right? So usually you're only deciding between flipping it and wholesaling it. But when you are in the Midwest, things are a lot different. When you can go buy a property for $50,000 that rents for $1,000 a month, it's tough to decide not to rent that out because the cash flow is so good. When you're faced with saying, hey, I can make $15,000 on a flip, or I can make $400 a month pure cash flow after everything, and assuming that you're able to get the rental financing and possibly BRRRR out of it, which if you don't know what BRRRR is, I'll have to do another video on that. If you want me to do a video on that, make sure you comment below. But assuming that you can get financing on the rental, in that case, it's like, you might as well keep it as a rental. Making 15 grand a month isn't gonna be as good as making $400 to $500 a month cash flow. So people in the Midwest have that choice. I'll give you another example. My property's in Big Bear. I've done videos on Airbnb and my property's in Big Bear, and they crush it with cash flow. And I have to ask myself every time I acquire a Big Bear property, whether I want to flip it, wholesale it, or keep it as a rental. And almost always we keep it as a rental because we make so much on Airbnb. We're talking about properties that were all in for say $250,000 and they can gross $4,000 to $5,000 a month on average on Airbnb. That's almost impossible to beat as far as a flip goes. I would much rather make that $4,000 to $5,000 gross, which can net me anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a month, over making 20K on a flip. I'll take that all day, right? And the other thing to consider too is in places like California, you have the state income tax when you flip a property. So I have to pay around a 10% tax on top of my profit. So it almost always makes sense for me to keep my Airbnbs in Big Bear. In the other market we're in, Tucson, it kind of becomes a coin flip. There are properties that we can be all in for at around $120,000 and they might rent for $1,200. We would call that the 1% rule. Basically, the monthly rent is 1% of the all-in amount. Now, the cash flow on something like that isn't gonna be crazy. It might only be $200 to $300 a month. But for a property in the West Coast, in a good city, in something that might appreciate, it's not a bad play to keep it. If it was between that and making say 15 grand on a flip, I would much rather keep it as a rental. But if I was gonna make say $50,000 on the flip, well, obviously I'm gonna go flip it. So in the end, it always comes down to all three options and what they're gonna make. And all three options are gonna vary on where your market's at and how good the deal is. It's that simple. In many markets today, rentals are not even an option. They just don't make sense, just like Vegas. Here's the funny thing, in Vegas, if I did get a deal that got good cash flow, I probably got it extremely undervalued, maybe 60% of market value. That's the only way it really is. But then if you got a property discounted, you're talking about $50,000 to $100,000 profit on a flip. So even in that scenario, it still doesn't really make sense to keep it as a rental, even though it cash flows, because you're comparing it against flipping it and making 50 to 100 grand. And I would be hard pressed to ever keep something that I know I could just go flip right now and make $100,000. That's just me personally. So market's obviously gonna play a role. How good the deal is gonna play a role, but the last thing that plays a role is your money situation. If you cannot afford to flip it, and you have to wholesale it, then you really only have one option. Maybe you can't get long rental financing, so you can't even rent it if you want it. All you can do is flip or wholesale. Or maybe your business needs the capital this month, so all you can do is wholesale. Look, I get it, that's part of growing. A lot of people don't have all the options like we do. We're very blessed that we can do that. So you need to definitely look at your business and your situation. You can't just only think about how can I maximize this deal right now, because it may put you in a bad position for your business. You may need that money right now, so you have to wholesale it. You might be looking at making $10,000 on a wholesale, and if you flipped it, you might make 50, but if you don't wholesale it, you're not in business next month. So obviously you need to wholesale it. And then you need to aspire to get to the point where, yes, I have multiple options. I'm not forced into this one situation. And that's the big thing I teach in my coaching program that is very different than almost every other program I know, is that we teach all 3 exit strategies. Most coaches only teach one thing. They teach you how to either flip or how to own an all-around great investor. And you need to maximize every deal that comes through in order for you to be the most profitable short-term and in the long term. If you have a steady mix of flipping houses, wholesaling houses, and buying rentals, you're gonna go far, I can promise you. So for those of you who are wondering whether you should rent or flip a property, I hope this video answered that question. If you like this video, please do me a big favor and hit the like button. If you haven't already, I don't know why you wouldn't have, but if you haven't, make sure you go hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell notification so you know exactly when I release new videos. And as I mentioned before, make sure you go and follow me on all my socials. I'm active on there daily, I interact with people daily, and that's where I get my great ideas for these videos, is through people just like you who have questions on what to do in business, real estate, life, whatever. I'm happy to take those questions and answer them in depth on YouTube. So I appreciate you guys watching this video. Take care.